stuck, slow moving, or on target? What does your school's attainment look like? Can this DFES army of colourful stickmen really help when it comes to personalising progress? Tracking down underperforming pupils and getting results before it's too late is a passion of the DFES's Chief Advisor for School Standards, Sue Hackman.
I think these children just don't get it. They don't get the point of school. They feel that education is something that's done to them.
Sentences, but they don't add enough details to really set higher expectations, because the children will rise to that if we drive it.
Teacher expectation is key to this. It's actually about us making sure that we're expecting enough of every child in this school. We're in an inclusive borough, so we've got children with SEN, we've got a large number of children who've got English as an additional language. But we need to meet every single one of those needs and make sure that we're not using it as an excuse for underachieving.
Do you make individual provision for children? Do you do catch-up classes? Do you have one-to-one revision at all?
We have a variety of things, revision programmes, catch-up programmes. I mean, I look particularly at the stuck pupils at all levels, 3, 4, 5, and we have mentoring programmes. We do set targets in terms of numbers, like you are a 3C at the moment, we hope to get you a 4A, but within classrooms there is specific level breakdown in pupil speak.
Okay, thanks for meeting with me. Today we're going to be talking about your targets and data and your learning.
As part of Addington's push to raise standards across all ability levels, Head of Year 9, Tanya Goody, meets with students to discuss their aspirational targets.
Now the red, if you have a red square on your current grades or your now grades, that means that you haven't reached your forecast grade yet. If you've got yellow, that means you've reached it and you've got to your forecast and now you're aiming to get to your aspirational. If you've got green, it means you're well on the way to reaching that aspirational and you've passed your forecast grade. Okay, so obviously I'm hoping all of you are going to want what colour? Green. Green.
All pupils in the year really appreciate their aspirational targets. It's helped to develop a culture and an ethos of learning and achievement in the year group. And a child might say, I really want to become a lawyer or I want to do journalism, and the tutor will break that down and help them to understand how what they're doing now is one step along that journey.
Our real need is to make sure that all the staff of the school are expert in how pupils learn best, looking at how we customise learning to individuals and groups of pupils.
Well, the purpose of our meeting today is to look at Darren's progress.
Learning mentor Crystal Keary meets regularly with pupils who have been identified as not meeting their potential, especially those who are somewhat stuck in the middle.
The mentoring process in the school is something that I've been responsible for in the last 2 years, and my idea behind it was we do spend a lot of time working with the gifted and talented pupils. There's a lot of support put in for SEN pupils and EAL pupils, but there's that kind of middle ground of pupils who get stuck and maybe all they need is just that little bit of encouragement and a little bit of attention.
Now, number 13, this is to show increasing independence and initiative. That means that when you get your homework at home, do you sit down and do you straight away get on with it, or is it, I need a bit of help with this, I'm not sure about that. Mum, what do you think?
Puts it off till the next day.
It was very important that we got the parents on board, and I think parents want to know how well their children are doing, and they want them to know that they are being pushed in the right direction, that they are getting targets set, and that they're doing everything we can in school to support them and achieve those targets.
Why do you think, rather, you're holding off on completing your work in some subjects?
Because I find it complicated with the English homework.
So if you were to think about your average evening at home, how could you restructure your evening so that you get all of your work done?
To try to do my homework a little earlier, because then...
Right.
When we went and spoke to the children who were stuck in Key Stage 3, they told us most of them had targets. What they really liked in targets, though, were targets that were very specific and doable, and what they hated were these big wafty ones that they couldn't quite get their heads round. I was interested in what you were saying about having high expectations, because that's a challenge, isn't it? And we did a little exercise of our own with school targets to see if you set very high expectations, does it actually influence your results? And it does. Yeah. Schools that are willing to countenance high expectations and set high targets do produce better results. Even if they don't reach the target, they produce better results.
This is our colour system. Okay, we tried to keep the colours exactly the same so it links in.
At Ellen Wilkinson, Sue and Poppy have adapted the stickmen approach, tracking individual pupils' progress in terms of their sub-levels.
It's all very well, but is it actually any use?
Yes, I think it is, because now I can target the children who really need to move on. I mean, I can then plan activities that would be specifically geared towards making sure that they move, especially the kids who are stuck. I mean, it's surprising. In my assessments, I didn't really identify it quite this clearly. So this would be good to inform my future planning.
I spotted a couple of children who are level 4 and they've only moved one sub-level. So I wouldn't have considered them as having a problem because they're already so high up in terms of the rest of the class. So it establishes that they probably climbed really high early on in the stage and now they're slowing down again. So it's quite interesting to see that they need helping along again.
It's those ones there that you'd be wanting to push into those level 5s, and because they're, you know, near a 4 or at a 4 already, you're thinking it's okay, but it's actually saying, well, actually, you know, let's look at you and let's say, right, okay, you've not been pushed far enough. I want to actually push you further to hit that level 5 at the end of the key stage.
Yeah.
Groups. You know, we're sitting in our literacy groups at the moment, and I've realised that I would like Roz to work with a particular group, okay? One of the strategies I've tried was changing the positioning of where the children sit. With the slow movers, I've now moved them more to the centre of the room so they can be in my direct line of vision, so I can keep focusing on them.
It isn't about doing anything radically different. It's just maybe working in a slightly different way. For instance, a TA, if we just move them to the slow-moving group once a week, 20 minutes could make a big difference to those children. 20 minutes less for those SEN children would actually probably help them too, make them more independent.
Okay, folks, standards and stickmen and Addington High School. We've had a little bit of a chance to look at this. What we've been able to do now, of course, is to take the 2006 cohort and map that out.
I think it's a good representation to be able to share with your team, because you're often working with spreadsheets, aren't you? And you have a tendency to look at your own classes or to look at particular groups. And I think it's quite important for all staff to see where the cohort is. I still personally do like to look as a subject leader in a lot of detail at the sub-levels because I find that very useful.
I can see it having a use, but I feel I like to look at the individual, because obviously I've had a problem with my stuck pupils at Key Stage 4. And whilst I see what is here, it does tend to marry up with what I've got around me and collecting at the moment.
I'm a bit concerned really when I look at this, because what I do, I actually look at the individual as opposed to sort of blocks of people. The main difference of drive here is looking at those level 4s. If this is the drive, then I know I can perhaps put more resources into that particular cohort of people, those level 4s. So all the time we're driving at every level. The 5A's getting the 6s, the 6A's getting the 7s, the 7A's getting the 8s. And the N's getting their 3s, you know.
Even the lower attainers in the year group, though, like to have an aspirational target, and for them that might only be one sub-level higher than a whole level. So it might be 4 sub-levels, but that for that child who came in at maybe below level 3 or level 3. So it is about personalising that target for each child.
Particularly with those students who would be considered to be slow moving, it's very important for them to feel they're making progress and not to be just labelled, you're level 4, you're level 4, you're level 4. They've got to know, actually, I've made some real progress there and I've moved up, you know, 1 sub-level, I've moved up 2 sub-levels.
Can I just check something out there? If somebody comes in from Key Stage 2 at 4A and at Key Stage 3 they get 6C, in our terms, that's 4 sub-levels. What I would say is that's not enough for that student.
What you're really saying is actually we have to be a little bit wary of these blue stick men, because whilst they're looking good on there, you're saying actually that's not good enough, because plenty of those blue stick men there are actually underachieving.
So 3 weeks later, with some mixed reviews, both schools head back to Sue Hackman with their feedback.
Were there any surprises thrown up by it?
The couple where it was the children who were above average that had only moved 1 sub-level, that was That really flagged up, and I think that was the biggest surprise to us. The thing is, because they're in year 5 and it's still right at the sort of early stage of year 5, you've got enough time now to really make a difference and to impact on it, you know.
What was also helpful is we've sort of cross-referenced it against our behaviour tracking systems.
Oh, tell all. Was there a correlation?
Yes, there is, funnily enough. Funnily enough, children who have got very poor punctuality and attendance are slow moving. And I know doesn't sound rocket science, but it's actually that extra bit of leverage to actually say, look, your child is slow, you know, is slowing down their progress. And one of the aspects is the fact that, you know, they don't come in until about 15-20 minutes after the lesson starts.
I think that's a very productive line of thought and very well worthwhile in the long run. And now I'm beginning to wonder how it's been in the secondary school.
Well, we found it interesting, Sue. We've gone back and used the spreadsheet to look at the data that we're carrying within the school. But interestingly, we've also had a go at the current year 9, and that's provided us with some very valuable information at this stage in this academic year.
So this is our current year 9. So at the moment there's obviously the 27% are stuck at level 4, 11% are slow moving. But it's now looking at those specific groups of pupils and what intervention we can put in place for those specific groups of pupils.
And you've still got time to do something about them before you expect them to. Yeah.
But what we felt was we needed to put names to the particular people. So I actually looked at particular groups of pupils, groups of levels. So I started to look at the blue men. But then within that, I've used the same kind of colour coding that you used to track at level 5. So looking at the pupils who are stuck at level 5 and who are slow moving at level 5, who have made fast progress. But what about those pupils who came in at a level 5 and who maybe are still stuck at level 5? And unfortunately there are, you know, a few of those. I guess the ones that we're, you know, really interested in terms of raising those, you know, national statistics are this group of pupils. And what we need to put in place in terms of intervention for these.
I'm fascinated that you're looking at stuckness in different levels, because when you focus on targets or even at GCSE on level C, I suppose it's very natural for us to worry about the pupils who are on that borderline. But of course there are children who might be making poor progress who actually have rather good results. That's where raising standards comes from. Yeah. I think you're raising the bar. I think that's putting challenge into the system.
I think in particular it's allowing us to test the strength of our data tracking systems and to make them even more coherent. It is looking at big structures within the school, and it's providing us with the opportunity to look in detail at particular groups of pupils or particular individuals, where they are in the school and also where they are in the subject areas.
The bottom line is, numbers don't change anything. Graphs don't change anything. It's only when you bring it down to the individual pupil and look at their needs that's when the difference happens. And you have to turn that into action. You can analyse data a million different ways, but if you're not actually putting any action behind it and you're not actually checking to see that it's had the impact you hoped, what's the point?
If you'd like to test out the Stickman model, you can get the spreadsheet via this programme's webpage on www.teachers.tv.